Hiya! Thank you for joining me today. Today I wanted to deal with a question which was put to me by someone from YouTube in the comment section, and we've had a few email exchanges as well. Someone who on YouTube is known as fashionforwardfellow. And the question was, if you could merge your two sides together and live that way, would you? So if you didn't feel the need to separate what's masculine from what's feminine, and if you didn't feel the need to dress as either a conventional male or a conventional female, would you have those things merged today, and would you bring those things together and express your feelings and emotions anytime, dress how you want, be how you want, just be the whole person? And I thought this was a really interesting question. It's one that we have gone backwards and forwards with slightly on email exchanges between the two of us, and I thought though it was a useful one to actually discuss here, because I think the sort of mental aspect of what goes on inside my head, this sort of cross-dressing aspect and why I do these things, is an interesting one. And it deserves a little bit of a review just to go over some of the key points that I think are pertinent to the discussion. So for me, I can start with a fairly straightforward comment, which is that you can tell today, we may as well be relatively straightforward on this, that I express my identity in two completely polar opposite ways. My gender identity. So I have a gender identity that is very clearly male, where I have very few clothes. I have some jeans and t-shirts and jumpers, and I have a few pairs of shoes, and I have a really quite limited wardrobe, and I dress in a very stereotypical male way. I have no interest in the clothes. So clothes from that side of my personality, I have no interest in them. I don't pay an awful lot of attention to my appearance. I have a few nice things that I'll dress up in, but I don't view, let's say, getting into male outfits as being particularly dressing up. I don't do a lot to glam myself up as a guy. So I dress in that sort of quite smart yet minimum effort way as a guy. And on the other side, I dress like this. I dress as Juliette, and I put a lot of effort into my appearance. And most of that effort is in the makeup. For the most part, I still get by on a sort of skeleton budget of clothes and shoes and bits and pieces and stuff like that. So I don't spend an awful lot of money on clothes. I don't indulge this habit for a very, very clear reason, which is that I have a family, I have responsibilities. This isn't something that I spend all of my spare cash on. You know, we go out, we do dinners, we go out to theatres, to cinema, we go do things together as a family, and so I have to take a really quite limited budget and make that work for me. Which means that I buy a few items here and there, and I'll recycle things, and I'll try and find things that I can make work with other outfits, and kind of go round and round with stuff. But that's basically my point. So in general, as a person, I'm quite restricted in terms of what I will buy, and I won't go out and splurge a lot of money on the clothes and stuff like that. But it's quite obvious that I put a lot of effort into my sort of female persona, and I put a lot of work into makeup. I have spent a reasonable amount of money on makeup, but it lasts me a long time, so I don't really find that I've wasted money these days. So I will spend my money on makeup, and I will, I will put some kind of investment into that. And I spend a lot of time putting makeup on. And I think the assumption is that because I spend so much effort on dressing as Juliette, and I sort of put everything into this, that somehow I am more focused on that side of my life, and I really am not. I clearly will try my hardest to look specifically good when I'm dressing as Juliette, but otherwise I don't have a massive wardrobe in comparison. I don't have huge numbers of shoes in comparison. I'm pretty much my one aspect. I am the one person that I am, and I don't find that my personality particularly changes. In that way, I'm pretty methodical and restrained on male clothing. I'm pretty methodical and restrained on female clothing. So it's not like Juliette is substantially different or is some way a more vibrant or a more expressive part of my personality, a more spendthrift side of my personality. That isn't the case. I spend what I need to get the results that I'm happy with, and beyond that, I don't really need to go much further than that. So when we're talking about would I blend these two personas, if you want to call them that way, together, I don't think of them as two personas. The way I think of it is this. I express my identity in two different ways. I dress in two different stereotypical ways, male and female. I have a female name. The female name is there because it replaces the need to use my male name. When I started this, this was a secret identity. And if you're going to have a secret identity name, why not make it female? I mean, I could have a secret identity name which is Jeff. What's the point of introducing yourself to people as Jeff if you've made the name up? You may as well make up a name like Juliette and use the name Juliette, and that will be your secret identity name, and you can use that with people, and it makes much more sense to me. So I chose a female name because I'm dressing female, and I had this question is a very interesting one, because the implication that there are two sides is something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently. I don't really feel these days that I have two sides. I dress in two strikingly different ways. One is very male, one is very female, but I'm the same person underneath. I'm the same man underneath all of this. My sex is male. I am a man, and so everything I do on top of my my body, in terms of covering my body, enhancing, changing the way my body appears, it's all temporary. Everything comes off, and so there's nothing that is so permanent that it requires me to make a compromise in my daily life. The only thing that comes close to requiring compromise in my daily life is my eyebrows, which are slightly more shaped than the average guy's. And that is really about it. Everything else is pretty much the same. So I choose to have this life right now, not because society thinks I should have these two lives. I don't do this because I want to have two different personalities, or I want to have two different personas. I do this because it, to a certain degree, protects my family. So I'm not open with everyone about who I am and the two halves of my life. I don't cross them over. I keep them quite distinctive from each other. So the male side, the female side, they don't cross over with work. They don't cross over with family. They don't really cross over with friends, etc. There's no sort of overriding link between the two. The only link is me and a couple of close family members who know about me. And I'm quite happy to keep it that way. For me, that makes sense as a model, because it's how I've grown up with this. So coming back to the question, which is, would I merge these two if I could? So let's take a hypothetical situation. Say, now I'm in a place in my marriage and I'm with my family where I'm out. Okay, I know I'm out to everyone. Would I simply pick bits of makeup and bits of clothing and put them together and come up with a sort of unique, converged me? that I go out and present in public? No. The answer to that is a straightforward no. I have no interest in doing that whatsoever. I don't do this because I secretly want to be a bit more flamboyant in my masculine life. I don't do this because I'd love to put eyeshadow on every single day, and I compromise by doing it like this. I wish to go outside as I choose to do, and the way I choose to do is either male or female. It's masculine or feminine. And there's no middle ground. There never has been a middle ground for me. I don't want to. So let me give you a list of things that, for example, I have done, and then I looked at myself and thought, no, I don't want to do that. I won't wear a wig without makeup. It looks weird. I won't wear partial makeup. It looks weird. I don't get dressed in, let's say, a nice dress and a brown blouse, and get dressed up in clothes, and then not put makeup on, and maybe not even shave. Because if you walk past a mirror, I look at myself and I think, oh, look at the state of you. Normal guy face, unshaved, but wearing a necklace and a bra or something and a top. I look at myself and think, God, sort it out. Come on. And that's my viewpoint. I never have had any inclination to try to merge these two sides of personality together, or these two expressions of different genders together, because I want to act on those two poles. People who are happy to be somewhere in between, I think that's fantastic. I think it's great if you people used to just label these people as androgynous, people who don't fit nicely into one or other gender expression. I think we're a bit beyond that these days in terms of how we label people and how we treat people. But if you are someone who wants to wear whatever they want to wear when they want to wear it, then good for you. And I hope you have fun with that. But for me, I like to dress practically for the most part, and most of my life is spent dressed practically. Most of these clothes, these are not practical clothes. They're fine for working in my office at home, so they're great for this. This is a practical thing for me. But when I'm working in the garden, or I'm going off and I'm running or cycling or something like that, I really don't feel the need to run as Juliette. I don't feel the need to cycle as Juliette. I don't feel bad if I'm dressed as a guy going out. I don't have any of that whatsoever. I'm perfectly comfortable being guy me, girl me. And the only thing I would say is that guy me is me. It's just me. It's just normal me. You take everything off, and what you're left with is guy me. So guy me is just normal me. This is just one of my ways of sprucing myself up. It's one of the ways that I put maximum effort into my appearance. I have guy ways of doing this as well. I have nice outfits. This is like an equivalent of putting on a tux, or a denim jacket, or getting really smartly dressed up for, I don't know, a garden party or something like that. It's that equivalent. I dress myself up for the most part as Juliette, as if I am going out to some kind of event. I have no room for slobby Juliette. Slobby Juliette doesn't exist, and really has never existed. I've done it a few times, mainly when I was dressing less and time pressures forced me to do a little bit of something rather than doing a lot of something, rather than doing this for makeup thing. So I would occasionally just pop a skirt on, a few items, sit around and that would be me getting a little bit of a fix for the day back in the days when I wasn't able to dress quite so often. But I'm well beyond that now. So today I don't dress unless I dress fully. I don't half-ass this thing. I either do this or I don't do any of it at all. And I'm very happy with that. I like basically looking in the mirror and seeing this face, this me. I'm I'm not a massive fan of seeing half of this um, or a part of this, half made up or other bits and pieces. There are things that I find quite fun. I do pictures, as people who are friends on Facebook will know, I do the occasional pictures where I don't wear a wig and I've just got my natural hair and it's quite short, and I find this it's quite funny, they're interesting. But for me, this is not something where I ever want to bring these two things together. And what I would say about the question is, I think there's an assumption, which is that if you gave everyone their natural freedom, some people seem, and I think it might be slightly implied in the question, some people seem to think that if you said to anyone, you can dress in whatever you want to do, you can dress how you like, then we'd all just be men and women and we'd dress just how we like. And for people like me, you give me that freedom and I'm still going to dress like this sometimes, and I'm going to dress like my normal guy side the rest of the time. You give me the freedom, which is basically what I have now, to go out as I choose to go out, and most of the time I'll be a normal guy, and 10-15% of the time I'll do this. I'll never blend the two. I don't care to. I'll never blend the two. I'm not going to do a bit of mix and match. It's never going to work for me. And I do think the question, for those people out there who are in far worse situations than I am, people who actually have dysphoria, people who really do feel trapped in their male body. I don't feel trapped in my male body. I don't get that at all. It's not my thing. I'm absolutely not transgender in that way. I really do not feel like my male body is somehow disgusting, or it's not me, or it's a prison for my my female mind. That's not my situation. But if you are in that situation, I think any suggestion that, oh well, if society just left you alone and you could just dress as you wanted to, that you would somehow be okay, I don't think that would be the case. I think for a lot of people, it's not just an out and there thing. It's not just a clothing thing. For me, it's about clothes and appearance. It's really quite shallow, to be frank. This is quite a shallow thing that I do. There's not a lot here in terms of depth. It's outer appearance, and I mean shallow in the in the real sense of the term. It's the outside appearance that I'm mostly interested in. So if you're someone who has a deep internal longing to be different, if you are suffering from gender dysphoria, for me, the idea that clothing freedom, gender expression freedom would solve your problem, to me that doesn't sound like it's going to work. It sounds like something where people would like to find a nice simple explanation or simple way out of these problems, and we need to look beyond that, to look at what's inside the person. For me, I can't comment on it much better than that because, like I said, it's not me. I'm a crossdresser. I'm a transvestite. I'm someone who is interested in the outer layers. In here, I'm very comfortable with who and what I am. I've no desire to have surgery. I don't want to change my appearance. I simply want to express differently, and that's my thing. Anyway, so I hope that answers your question. I know that as we discussed on emails, and there are sort of, for anyone who's watching this video, and to be honest, well done to anyone who's got this far. If you've got this far, comment socks down below, and then I'll know that you watched it all the way to the last parts of the video. So if you made it this far, congratulations to you. You're very patient, so well done. But for the person who asked the question, I know that, I guess just sort of addressing you directly, I know that you, for example, have said that you think of sex and gender as being the same thing, and that perhaps there's been a lot of change in the way that terminology is used and terms are used and the way that things are spoken about these days. But I think that we all have to be a little bit aware that in our lifetimes, things can seem to change very quickly, too quickly, more quickly than they do with hindsight. But I want to say this, is that I firmly believe that what we're seeing in the world today is that this whole issue of gender expression, gender identity, sexuality, this is a far more complicated thing than has really been given credit before. And for me, the reason it seems to be changing so much is because it's being discussed more, because more voices are being heard. In the past, when you're talking about things like gender or sexuality, the reason, to my mind, that there is one or two predominant points of view on this, or there is a consensus, is because there were so few voices. When you've got very, very few voices standing up and explaining what they think, and publishing papers, etc., you go back 150 years and you've got an almost exclusively masculine view on this. It's almost exclusively men who are publishing papers on these things, and you will have really quite limited viewpoints on this. Today, with social media, with the sort of globalization of our cultures, it is far easier to hear from far more people about what they think, a la this, than ever before. And as a result, I think things are going to move much faster. Terminology will change much quicker. Understanding will change much quicker than it has in the past, even compared to 50 years ago. You go back to the 1960s and you're in an exclusively print media world. You've got print media, TV, radio, etc. But the advent of the internet, the advent of social media has massively changed how fast these things progress. And that might be difficult for some people. Some people prefer things to be quite stable in their lifetimes. But change happens whether you observe it or not. So the fact that you can observe the change happening, the fact that it perhaps is a little bit annoying or bewildering, or in some cases it's enlightening for people that these changes happen so quickly. But for me, I'm all for that. I like the idea that things change rapidly these days. I like the idea that that conversations that we're having today might make a difference to someone in as little as 6 months' time or a year's time. That's a nice thing to to have so many voices, so much different input happening at the same time. And I think that's a good thing. I think something to be happy about, and something to sort of cling on to as we as we keep hurtling round and round the sun, and the world keeps spinning, and somehow we don't drift off it, and all that kind of stuff. Day-to-day life goes on. Anyway, for me, this is a really, really in-depth, deep question. I doubt this is the last video I'll make on this subject. I'm sure I'll come back to talk about this one again. It is a very, very detailed, interesting topic of conversation to have. I think I'd quite like to do a dialogue with some people about this, as opposed to just a one-way discussion. I'd love to set up something where it's a dialogue about this. So yeah, if there's a chance soon, it would be great to set up a conversation between two or more people to actually talk about this in a more interactive way. So I'll have a think about that and see if there's anyone that I can do that with, and if I can work something out, then so much the better. Anyway, thank you for the question. I really do appreciate it. It's been a very interesting exchange that we've had through email. To be clear, I don't think we agree on quite a few things, but I don't also think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, and I think conversation is important, and disagreement is where people start before they reach agreement or mutual respect. You don't. I think instant agreement is not the best way to develop mutual respect. Let's put it that way. Anyway, thank you for that question. Really appreciate it. Very interesting. I know this has been a long video. I thank everyone that's had the patience to get through to the end of this one. And if you did give up partway through, then apologies for that, but you'll miss me doing this. So there you go. If you saw the cross eyes, you got it all the way to the end. Congratulations. So thank you for taking the time to watch this today. And thank you everyone that's left comments. I really enjoy the interaction that we have on those comments. It's really good fun, and it's one of my favourite parts of doing this is to be able to exchange backwards and forwards with different people. So thank you very much for that. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to this video. You can find me on my website, which is www.julietnoir.uk, or through email at juliettesnoir@gmail.com. Both of those are in the description down below, so you can find the links to those down there. As ever, thank you everyone for taking the time to watch me today. Look forward to talking to you again soon. And bye! Bye!